Hi there. So for this video, we are going to do a rainbow glitter pour. So this is going to be very time consuming. So it'll be in between other projects. So the next couple of colors that I do, I'll put them in fast mode just because it's pointless to do every single color in regular speed. So what we're doing, I have another silicone mold right there. It's nice and rigid, so I'm using that to prop the ends up. I want gravity to be my friend, so I want this, since I'm going to do rainbow, now that I have all the colors for the geode that I want to do, I want to see what they look like, and I want to get creative because I'm off today and I have time to play with it. So I want this to be on the bottom because that's where my red is going to be. I don't want them literally tilted like that because then it'll just spill right over. I just want the ends tipped up so that gravity stays, or gravity is my friend, and it stays pretty close to where I want it. When we do the other colors, we're going to leave it tilted, but we also have to make sure that it doesn't like spill up over that. So we'll get to that part in a little while. So I have some epoxy mixed up here. I'm just going to, oh my gosh, the lid was already off. Ooh, I almost made a mess. So we're just going to dump plenty of glitter in here. I've mentioned it in another video. I do feel like my epoxy doesn't cure properly if I do too much fine glitter, but I don't feel like I've ever had that issue with chunky. You definitely want it dense enough that you don't end up with weird bald spots. And on these that have the two, if I have enough, I may do like one rainbow on one side, but one reverse rainbow on the other. We'll see. This little cow tag here, I'm probably going to fill it up completely. That's one of our school colors, and I want to go ahead and make some of that stuff up for craft shows for the summer, winter. If there are any craft shows right now. Everything's been canceled for the school year, so we'll see if that happens. There's always next year. All right, so I'm going to go real slow right here. Just pouring it right here at the top in the little panhandle, they call it. So you can see it kind of spreading and filling in that space. I'm okay for it to actually be right here also. Oopsie. I'll peel that off after it cures. So you can kind of use your stir stick to manipulate. Don't scrape your mold, because if you scratch it, it'll actually show up scratches on future projects. I'll get that little drip out after it's cured. I'll just pop it right off. I love that rainbows are a thing. They're so fun. They're very Lisa Franken unicorny, which was most of my childhood. Just kind of manipulate that like that. It's slowly but surely filling in that little gap right there. You can kind of see it at the, oh, there it goes. Finally finished. So gravity will be our friend here. I've actually made, excuse me, I've actually made this a little too big, so my other colors are going to have to be thinner. That's okay. That one may end up being just a red, white, and blue one. We'll see. I love these stir sticks. They're good for everything. They're so easy to clean off. You either wipe it with a baby wipe or scrape it off with a razor blade like I just did. I had some dried epoxy on there. All right, so now that has kind of closed up right there. I've got plenty of epoxy, so I'm going to go ahead and do that whole reverse rainbow idea. Just let those spread out. Just going to kind of guide that there. Having this epoxy a little thicker is helpful. If it's too runny, it just goes everywhere. Excuse me, good grief. It's kind of cold out here this morning, so that's working in my favor. I'm going to have a lot left over, which should be perfect for this cow tag. Now this one might be a little tricky because the hole for the loop is really close to the edge here. So I may have to pry that open so that it can do its thing. I'm literally just putting like a pea-sized little drop on there. It doesn't take much at all because these are pretty shallow. I'm not super worried about having a little remnant right there, because then whenever I go over with the next color each time, it'll actually kind of give it an almost ombre-ish vibe. Yeah, that spot's taking a little while, but it is definitely filling in. Yeah, all right, so that's good there. Just kind of manipulating each one. Just a little bit. That's so close, I might as well just scoot you right on in. Just really gently. If you're touching your silicone, just do it gently. I actually scratched a couple of molds in the past, not even thinking about it. I was using this to get epoxy and glitter out. Super not smart. Yeah, I think Texas here might end up being just red, white, and blue. But let's give it a little bit more of a tilt. That might help us out here. This is time consuming, but I've made a little sample, glitter sample, just tinkering around with just playing with glitter and epoxy when I first started doing this. And it was adorable, but when I did it, I didn't used to mix the glitter into the epoxy. I used to just dump it on top, which is incredibly messy and really hard to clean the molds. Just kind of doing that. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do on Texas. Hopefully that one ends up working out okay. And this one, I'm just going to literally fill it up. I love watching the glitter just flow like that. The way it catches the light. It's satisfying. All right, so I'm just going to let that level out just a bit. When you're doing these, you definitely want it almost too full, because whenever you're pouring this, it creates a little meniscus, and so you'll end up with a ridge right here, and then the epoxy kind of dips down and goes back up, just like when you were in science class in middle school. Teacher said read at the bottom of the meniscus or whatever. Kind of the same concept there. I'll give this a little bit more persuasion here. When we're done with these, all the colors, I'll probably go ahead and just pour clear on top to level them out. We'll see. It may not need it. It may kind of overflow a little bit. So that's all we're going to do for this particular step. All right, so I'm getting ready to do the next layer, but I wanted to do this one in regular mode for one more color, just so I can show you something. So I'm taking my stir stick, and this has been out here a couple of hours now, and this is nice and thick. It's not hard, but it's definitely kind of like taffy almost. It's really thick, but not set too much. So I am just pushing this gently this way to kind of make a little bit more of a solid line, and kind of see it kind of sliding back down, just to kind of give me a little bit more defined edge. I'm just going to do that all the way around. I didn't make a very big batch of epoxy this time, since I really only need a little bit. I've actually probably made too much, but that's okay. I'll add it to my Lego man over here. So this doesn't have to be perfect, because with the colors overlapping, it's fine. Gives it a somewhat ombre look. Not quite, but kind of the gist of it. All right, that's all I'm gonna do there. So I'm working on 2 different tutorials right now using all the same colors. So I discovered that this is a little more translucent than I need it to be. You can kind of see it there. So what I did for these is I went ahead and added a little bit of this color from Frans. It's got the same kind of shimmer to it, but it's more solid. So I'm hoping that it'll help kind of solidify that line. So I've got my 10 milliliters mixed up here, and I've got this mixture here. Looks about the same as it does in the jar. I'm just gonna mix it up. Yeah, this is way too much. It's okay. I think for the next couple of colors, I'm actually gonna let this set for a while and get nice and thick, and then just drizzle it in there like that. I think that'll help kind of keep the colors a little bit more separately, like I want them. All right, so there's that. I'm just gonna spoon it on here with this. And by spoon, I mean stir stick it on here. I've got them still dang it, that dropped. I wasn't paying attention. Dang it. I've still got these tilted the way I had them the first go around. All right, that's a mess. Scoop that out of there. I don't want you there. Okay, that won't be too noticeable after it kind of settles in a little bit. So I'm going to leave the angle here. And then after this, I'm actually going to switch to one of the bottom colors and work from the other direction. One more blob. Just nice and slow. If you go too fast, you'll end up with too big of chunks like I did earlier, or it'll blend too much. All right, so we are on our final color on some of these. I've got room on this one and this one to add like a, I don't know, like a cloud cover I was thinking, or color. I was thinking Erin, but I'm kind of also thinking Vegas. I'm undecided, but I better decide quick. I've got some epoxy mixed up. My only drawback to using this one is there are some bigger pieces in it. It's got stars in it, and I think it might give me trouble right here. But I'm not positive yet. I've got a minute to have to decide on that one. I'm going to go ahead and finish this one up with purple. I think I can go ahead and do just a teeny bit here on this one as well. So, oops, sorry about that. So I think I'm going to go ahead and finish off this one and this one while I'm still mulling it over on that one. So I've got a little bit here. This is Aladdin. And you can kind of see there is kind of a raised, you can see it's fuller here than it is here. That's okay. That's not that big of a deal because I'm going to fill this in with clear when it's all said and done. So if you look at it from a profile view, yes, you'll be able to see it. But general use, it won't be that big of a deal at all. So I'm just going to fill this in, but I don't want it so full that it's overflowing into the blue. But we don't really have to do a whole lot on this as far as tilting it or anything like that, as long as we don't get it too full. If you get it too full, that can be a problem because it'll start filling in to level out over here. And when you're doing this, if you're tilting these or whatnot, make sure you don't bend the silicone away from the epoxy that's already in there. It'll lift it and the new epoxy will start sliding underneath it. Big bubble right there. So go ahead and do the same thing here. You can see in some of the hyperlapse videos that sometimes this dripped where I wasn't expecting it. I had to go fishing for it a couple of times, but it came right out. I feel like it happened the most on the Texas. All right, so that's filling in that little gap right there. This one is trying to go over my blue, but that's okay. I've got plenty of blue to compensate for it. Easy peasy. All right, so really quickly, what I'm going to do is throw a little bit of this into a clean cup. I've got extra. I mixed 20. I knew I wasn't going to need 20 for one color. So I'm just going to do this. And I think I am going to go ahead. Oh my goodness, what was I doing? I tilted it really, really far, a little sideways, so now I have it all over my fingers. That was smart. Okay, so I've got just a little bit here. I really only need enough for here, here, and a little bit there. So what I'm going to do is quickly mix this up, and then I'll have to pour them back to back pretty quickly. They should kind of merge against each other pretty good. I don't think it'll give me any weird lines or anything. I'm going to go ahead and shake up this Vegas one just so I have some more small stuff on top. It tends to settle a little bit on some of these chunkies. I try and remember to shake them up, but I don't always remember. This one has tinsel in it also, which is really fun. It's got two different kinds of stars. It's got this here. You gonna focus? Maybe not. Anyways, it's got that, and then it has the little stars that go in between. It's pretty cute. I love the color of it. It's got massive rainbow effect to it, which I think is pretty perfect for the project that I'm working on right now. All right, so I've got that mixed in there. So I'm going to move these two away. So that I can work on these a little bit easier. The reason I did several different shapes is so you could see how it would work out with the different sizes, widths, shapes, all of that. Plus, when you're mixing up a little bit of epoxy, it's kind of nice to not waste it. So for starters, what I'm going to do is tilt. I'm going to go ahead and tilt this one with that. And then prop that up there just a little bit, just until I can get my second color in there. So I'm going to do a little bit here. I don't want a ton. There we go. I may have gotten too much glitter in here. It's really thick. It's not really flowing like it needs to. I know it's definitely not because my epoxy is cold, because it is not cold out here right now. It was like 85 degrees today. Okay, I want just a little bit more. I want it. See what I mean? It's not supposed to do that. I'm just going to gently bring this way. But I do have to wipe that off because it'll be pretty obvious right there in that purple. All right, that's as good as that's gonna get. It's not cooperating. So I've got that kind of tilted upward just so this doesn't level out all the way. Let's wipe this cup or stir stick off. And now I'm going to fill in the little space between right here. But not too full, because I don't really want it going up over the blue or the silver. So that's pretty perfect right there. So I'm gonna let that level out just like that. If this is too full, it'll push that way, and I don't want that. All right, so let's do the silver on this one. I may have to mix a little bit more silver. Okay, here's the part that I was worried about. Right there, I need it to fill in. Just kind of persuading it to move over. It'll be better once I get that purple in there. I got one big giant star right there. Let's get you out of the way. Fill you in. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right. I should not sit on my foot. I'm getting way too old for that. I don't know why I do that all the time though. All right, wipe that off again. And I have epoxy all over this hand. It's a good thing I have a glove on. Okay, hurry up and get that in there so that it can start leveling. And I need to flatten it out so that it can mix properly. Or flatten properly, I mean. Not mix. Don't really want you to mix. There. That's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. I know it's not a perfect rainbow, but we'll see. Depending on how it turns out, it'll either turn into a massive pair of earrings, which we've talked about before, or a couple of keychains. We'll see. There's that. And now I'm going to do the same thing to this guy. All right. It's pretty thick, partly because I probably have too much glitter in there. Who knows? So we're gonna go right there. I hope I have enough purple. I may have to mix up a little bit more purple. Just kind of eyeballing all of these. I'm just guiding that way. I love this Vegas glitter. I'm kind of bummed that sometimes the big stars don't really show that much. It's almost like they float instead of settling. Next time I do a keychain with it, I'll probably maybe lay down a few of them. That way I know they're prominent and then epoxy over it. We'll see. All right, and then final little band here. Just kind of spreading that like it needs to be. And now you get to go flat. Now this isn't even here, right there. I'm okay with that. This isn't precise. Some stuff is, this is not. So you can see my little puzzle piece here. One of the rounds that I did earlier of color, I had a big clump of the green. And then I had extra epoxy, so I did the red. And then when I did the blue jean, I went ahead and did that. So since I need a little bit more green, I'm going to go ahead and do that and let it kind of fill up and overlap, because it'll look one way on this side and another way on the other side. So I'm okay with it kind of overlapping here a little bit. And this is actually going to be too much epoxy for this. So leftovers get to go towards the Lego man that I'm working on. This one, like I mentioned earlier at the beginning, is Wimawa, like the song. It doesn't have a label. I need to put a label on there. I think that one just got missed. Oh, and anybody that got the subscription box from Frans for last month, that pink that didn't have a name has a name. She just announced it yesterday or the day before. She named it Sweet Shelby. I've got it right here. It's kind of pink, kind of purple, kind of pink, kind of orange. It's really pretty under epoxy. All right, so I'm just going to pour this here and let this kind of fill. Since this doesn't have to have direction, I'm okay with this overlapping, like I said. I don't want it to completely obliterate the red on the other side, on this side, but I'm okay with it doing this right here, just a little bit more, because these are pretty even with the edges. I'm okay with it going to about right there. No biggie. Yeah, so we'll let that flatten out and do its thing, and then I'll probably top it off with clear as well to kind of flatten out the back. Here's the Lego man I was talking about. I just dump all my extra in here. That's what the Vegas that we just used on that looks like. So pretty. I dumped clear in here earlier just because I had just a teeny bit to drizzle in there. It wasn't worth throwing glitter. But this thing is so cute whenever you end up filling it up. Just kind of a hodgepodge of colors. All right. And this mold just came off of eBay. Pretty sure it came from China. It took a little bit to come in, but I'm okay with waiting on that kind of stuff, because if it's cheap, you can't really complain. And it's like Christmas whenever it shows up and you've forgotten about it. All right, so that's that. I'm going to let these cure, and then we will demold them probably tomorrow morning. Depends on if I'm ready for work in time or not. Just for giggles, I want to show y'all, when you have glitter that is contaminated, it can't go back in its original container, you should make a dump jar. You can get some really pretty color combos like that one. Makes nice, just random keychains. Or I made a coaster for my niece with my last big amount of dump jar. Gives you something to do with the excess rather than throwing it away. Might as well use it for something. All right, so we'll be back tomorrow to demold. I just stuck my finger in that, just barely. Whew. That could have been ugly. Oh, there's more epoxy we can dump. So we'll be back in the morning or tomorrow after work to demold all of this. Okay, so I said I was going to demold these this morning. I was not thinking, I can't do that. I still have to fill in the gaps there. Some spots are super duper thin. Some of them aren't quite so bad, like this one. It's pretty good, but it still needs some leveling out because you can feel all those color changes there. Not here because these two kind of blended together, but I'm gonna fill these in really quickly. I'm mixing up some epoxy right now, and we'll fill in all these gaps and then we'll demold them after work today. Okay, so these have been sitting here all day. I did put my heat lamp on them. It's just a shop light this morning for a few hours just to kind of speed it along a little bit. So we are just going to gently work it out of here. This isn't quite cured yet. It's able to be handled, but it's not quite cured. Look how pretty it is. I like it a lot. Now some of these are going to be a little uneven, which I'm not super heartbroken about, but you can kind of see there. A little fatter here, a little thinner there. It's okay because once it's on, I mean, it's not like you're going to have to really think about that. This does have a little rough edge right there. Just kind of push that while it's not quite hard. I'll probably have to file that one. That's okay. But look how pretty that is as a pair. I like it. We'll see. It may end up being 2 keychains, but I don't know. I might kind of get some feedback and see about making it a pair of earrings. But this one's super pretty. I like how that blended pretty good. This one has air bubbles in it, but again, I'm not like distraught about that. It's pretty toasty out here, so some of these that ended up curing at a little bit of a curve because of how I had my stuff kind of pushed aside, it's soft enough still and it's warm enough that it will end up probably flattening out for me, which is fine. But look how pretty that is. Yeah, this one's a little soft. That's okay. It'll flatten, it'll harden. I don't love that as a pair, but it'll make a really pretty keychain. And then that one. I like them a lot. I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. So on this one, you can definitely see the thickness difference in that clear spot. Again, it's okay. It's just a keychain. It's not anything super life-changing. When you do have a couple of little rogue pieces of glitter, you can just kind of snip it like that. Like you're peeling a potato the old-fashioned way. You have to be careful doing too much or you'll end up with a weird little dull spot on there. Yeah, so that's that. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Just gives you an idea of how you can do multiple colors. Obviously, it's a little easier when you do 2 colors because you pour from one end, pour from the other, and just let them meet. This one didn't turn out equal because I had more of this color than this color because I was making earrings. But it gives you an idea of how you can do multiple colors in the same mold and still be able to compensate for it. This one you can kind of see, it's not super duper obvious on screen, but in real life you can kind of see this layer of clear here, but this is solid all the way through here. Yeah. Still good though. I like it. I picture some little girl falling in love with this, because who doesn't love rainbows? But I like these as a pair of earrings. I'm not really digging those though, but we'll see. I kind of let them finish curing and leave it be for a little bit. Yeah, that's it. That's the gist of how to do multiple colors in one mold. It's not perfect, but it gets the job done. So you guys have a good one. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to comment. I'll be happy to answer best I can. I'm not an expert, just kind of know enough to be dangerous. So if you have any other ideas for tutorials, don't hesitate to give me a call. Maybe don't call me. I don't plan on posting my phone number on here. Don't hesitate to drop it in the link. I'll be happy to add that to my list. I've got a couple of things in my head right now of what I want to do. So anyways, that's it. You have a good one.